Sure.
The GM's filing for bankruptcy might leave a lot of folks scratching their heads this morning. Taxpayers have forked over up to $20 billion so far to try and keep GM afloat, with estimates saying that another $50 billion will be needed. Many could be wondering, with the company possibly going under, is all that money going down the drain, and will we, the American taxpayers, ever get repaid? Thaddeus McCotter, a Republican congressman from Michigan, now joins us. He's a member of the House Financial Services Committee and chairman of the House Republican Policy Committee and appears frequently with us. Congressman McCotter, good to see you on this morning. In the 50s, it was said by the chairman of GM that what's good for GM is good for America. End of the day, this can't possibly really be good for America.
No, it's not, Eric. You're going to see a lot of our fellow Americans out of work, plants close. You're going to see dealerships close. You're going to see unemployment go up. And you're also going to see, interestingly, an arrangement whereby cars are made in communist China and brought back to the United States for sale. This is clearly not a good day for the United States.
But say that again, please. How are cars going to be made in China and brought back for sale here?
GM will produce them there. They will then be brought to the United States for sale. The manufacturing giant of the United States, of which our domestic auto companies helped to found, is now being not only eroded, but I believe it is being systematically decimated.
And who was responsible? You heard Mitt Romney just a moment ago blame the overreaching, in his words, of the UAW and the unions. We've had management. Some say that the GM, for the past 20 years, with bloated contracts and other problems, and mismanagement and strategy of the wrong cars, brought this upon themselves.
It is fascinating how politicians tend to overlook the fact that government played a large role through unfunded mandates and a 30-year war on the auto industry, through taxation, regulation, and litigation. They also leave out the fact that the Wall Street credit crisis stopped cars moving off the lot. In fact, I point out that even Toyota asked for a $2 billion loan to get through this period of difficult sales from the Japanese government and posted a higher loss in the first quarter than GM. Right now, Ford Motor Company hasn't asked for anything. So to leave out the culpability of the Wall Street misfeasance that led to the credit crisis and to leave out the bad decisions of government seems to me that they're trying to exculpate themselves without any basis for doing so.
But, Ford has not asked for money, and their management hasn't been able to deal with it. They foresaw the possibility of the crisis.
They've all foreseen the possibility of the crisis, Eric. Ford had an earlier jump on it, and as a smaller company, were able to do it far faster than GM. But it proves the point. Detroit has been trying to rectify many of the mistakes that the companies have made in the past, and restructuring was something that was well underway prior to new unfunded mandates from the government and the Wall Street credit crisis. And all we've asked for, but have not received, was a chance to responsibly continue that restructuring process without decimating the lives of the workers or the economy as a whole.
We're also seeing something we saw during the Chrysler bankruptcy proceedings. That is the bondholders crying foul. In this case, the bondholders, some of them say that this is an unfair deal because the union, the UAW, according to the Washington Post this morning, gets 66 cents on the dollar, while the stockholders, the bondholders, get 13 cents. I mean, is that a fair deal? The government's going to end up owning 70% or so. Do you think the stockholders have been given the shaft?
Eric, I think it's a mistake to pit the workers against the bondholders. The process was set up by this administration. As we continually become aware, it was essentially a prepackaged bankruptcy. What so many people in Michigan were trying to avoid, which was bankruptcy, and we were given hope that it was possible to do, turns out it was never really possible with a 30-day deadline for Chrysler, where you had the UAW having to protect its members and bondholders trying to protect their investors, or with 60 days with GM, a company of that size, to try to protect the workers and the investors. So I look at the process that was set up, the way it was sold, and it wasn't what it was purported to be.
And at the end of the day, finally, Congressman, what are we going to have with GM? A smaller company that they're burning through $111 million a day. That's almost $1 billion every 10 days. Is GM going to end up like Amtrak? I mean, just continually funded with billions of dollars of government money and run by the government?
The sacrifices made by the workers, the plant closures that have been agreed to, and the retirees taking the hit in the health care. These are things that are going to help make them a viable company when they come out. The one thing that has to be avoided is for this federal government to try to dictate what type of cars GM will make and what type of cars they will force consumers to buy, because that will not be about profitability, that will not be about paying the taxpayers back. That will be about putting an ideological agenda ahead of the interests of consumers and the country as a whole.
Well, the Obama administration seems to be doing just that with some of their smaller green cars. But we'll see how this crisis affects the the future of the automobile industry and our stock and the rest of our country's economy after tomorrow. Thaddeus McCotter, always good to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Eric.